Now, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to invite on stage the Chief of Staff of the Italian Air Force, General Antonio Conserva. General, please.
Ministers, honorable members of the European Parliament, Commissioner, Director General Aschbacher, distinguished guests, colleagues from other armed forces, distinguished representative of the institution, agencies, industry and academia. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is an honor to represent the Italian Air Force and the Italian Defense at this 18th European Space Conference, and to welcome all of you to this very significant event. Following the inspiring remarks of Director General Aschbacher, it is evident that while space remains a domain of extraordinary opportunity, it has also become an indispensable pillar of our collective security and strategic autonomy. We are operating in a strategic environment that represents a profound break with the recent past. High-intensity warfare is back in Europe. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has been like a wake-up call for all of us. And of course, other crises around the world, they are creating persistent instability, especially in the Middle East, with systemic effects spread out all around the world. At the same time, great power competition has become more explicit, more technologically driven, and increasingly intertwined with industrial power. In this context, the space domain has returned to the center of how deterrence, freedom, and international credibility are measured. Let me be clear, space is no longer a benign backdrop to stability. It is congested, contested, and competitive, and increasingly is becoming a war-fighting domain. It is already a war-fighting domain. It means that space effects already shape the outcome of conflicts on Earth because the targeting of space-based infrastructure can, to a certain degree, blind us, confuse us, or slow our decision-making process. We are witnessing an unprecedented European awakening to reality, and that's something positive. We start thinking strategically about space. Space is now recognized as one of the most advanced laboratories for the ambition of a common European defense. We have seen decisive milestones, the strategic compass, the EU space strategy for security and defense, the establishment of DG Defense, and the proposed EU multinational financial framework 28-2034, with an allocation of more than 100 billion euros for defense and space. These are not merely administrative steps. They represent the recognition of space as an operational dimension of our sovereignty. Yet, awareness alone is not sufficient, is not enough. We must now translate momentum into capability. The urgency to act is driven by a rapidly evolving threat environment that challenges us with ambiguity, congestion, and compressed decision cycles. Let's talk first about ambiguity. We face electronic and cyber activities that disrupt and deceive, as well as increasingly ambiguous behaviors in orbit, close approaches and maneuvers that challenge safety and stability. Congestion. It's a very congested space out there. The growing number of satellites and constellations and the debris turn space safety into a matter of space security. We talk about compressed decision cycles. In a crisis, delayed warning or uncertain attribution weakens deterrence, and adversaries are very much ready to quick exploit those gaps. Against this scenario, the question for Europe is clear. How do we move forward? I believe we must pursue two complementary lines of effort: defining a new European industrial vision, and second of all, adopting pragmatic models of cooperation. These efforts must converge to deliver concrete results along three strategic priorities. First priority, achieving information superiority through space domain awareness. In a warfighting domain, you cannot protect what you cannot see, nor can you act responsibly without attribution. From a military perspective, acquiring an effective space domain awareness capability is paramount. In this area, Italian defense acts not only as a consumer of data, but also as a producer. Leveraging national assets, we are actively engaged with the European External Action Service to define ways and means to effectively contribute to the EU space threat response architecture, ensuring that the European decision-making is based not on generic data, but on verified, high-quality military information. However, national sensors are not sufficient. At least alone, we cannot trust our own resources to deal with space. We need a federated European sensor network capable of eliminating blind spots. This is why Italy is investing in the EDF project Emissary, aimed at strengthening European sensing capabilities. Second priority, resilience. Resilience and sovereign infrastructure in space and on the ground. Resilience is an operational need, not merely an industrial slogan. For a military commander, resilience means assured availability of services in a contested environment. This requires the pragmatic integration of dual-use capabilities. In national initiatives such as IRIDE Constellation or IRIS Square, defense has worked closely with the civilian agencies to embed security by designs principle in each program. These civilian assets are being structured to support military requirements. Of course, we work in all sectors like Earth observation, security monitoring, and we are trying to provide overlaying layers to strengthen our collective resilience. Finally, of course, resilience is also a matter of achieving the ability to reconstitute capabilities under fire. We cannot rely solely on large static infrastructure. The Italian defense is actively exploring responsive space solutions, including air launch of small satellites from tactical platforms. In this domain, the ability to replace a degraded asset in hours instead in months acts as a formidable deterrent. Third priority, credible capabilities and collective deterrence. To remain a space power, Europe must translate ambition into capabilities. To do this, for this aim, from a defense standpoint, industrial fragmentation represents a strategic vulnerability. We need an industrial base capable of delivering innovation at the speed of relevance. Recent steps towards industrial consolidation should be seen not merely as an economic opportunity, but as an essential measure to achieve the critical mass required for strategic autonomy. Moreover, deterrence in space is not simply about possessing satellites. It is about the credibility of consequences. Most hostile activities today occur in the gray zone, below the threshold of an open conflict, yet clearly coercive. If Europe responds slowly or in a fragmented manner, coercion is reinforced. If we respond in a coordinated way, backed by a credible capability and a unified industrial base, our deterrence will hold. Ladies and gentlemen, while progress has been made, critical strategic questions remain unanswered, and we must have the courage to address them. First of all, what strategic posture does the EU intend to adopt? Are we aiming solely at survivability of our space assets, or we are prepared to consider a more assertive approach based on space superiority and dominance? Does the EU intend to develop its own deterrence and counter-space capabilities, or we will rely only on those provided by third parties? Partnerships. How do we structure our alliances? The partnership with the United States remains central and crucial to space security. At the same time, we must deepen structured dialogue with NATO on standardization, interoperability, and information sharing on space threats. To conclude, Europe does not lack talent, technology, or resources. What it needs is coherence. We must strike the right balance between national ambitions and shared European objectives. We need pragmatic cooperation that leverages national programs, flexible intergovernmental mechanisms, and the EU space program. If we accept that space is a warfighting domain, we must also accept the responsibility that comes with it. Preparedness without provocation, resilience without fragility, and deterrence without escalation. The future of space security will belong to those who can understand faster, endure longer, and act together. Let's ensure that Europe is among them. Thank you very much.